In a world of increasing mental health challenges, psychology and faith can both provide tools for healing and wellness. This is the idea behind Journey on My Mind. Each episode, our panel of pastors and therapists sit down together to share their experiences and insights on the modern world's mental health issues: depression, loneliness, aging, addiction, and so much more. Join us now as we explore what it means to thrive at the complex intersection of spirit and psychology.
Dave doesn't want to be the boss of anything.
No. Well, welcome to A Journey on My Mind. And we are here without one of our comrades. He got lost in the calendar app and forgot to
You're calling him out.
Well, we'll see you next time, Sam, on Journey on My Mind.
Goodbye, everybody. Sound like a sign-off.
Yeah, we can't do this without Sam, but we will. We will. So, what are you guys up to this summer? Lauren?
My kids are like doing camps and having fun and all that good stuff, but I'm going tonight to a summer ween party.
Oh boy, a summer ween.
I've never been to. Have you heard of this?
No, I have not.
Well,
sounds questionable.
Yes, it's Halloween in the summer. So instead of carving a pumpkin, you carve a watermelon.
Oh.
You have all the Halloween stuff and napkins. You make it all black and orange. Ours is an adult thing. So we're watching a horror movie outside. And
which one? Please tell me.
one of the Scream movies,
okay.
I think. And my husband, I can say this now because this will not air until later, has gotten a Scream mask. The reason we're doing it is that one of our dear friends, his wife is always talking about how he screams so loudly in horror movies. And we're like, we have to hear this. So we've put together this party just to hear him scream. And we're watching it at a house on the river in the woods. So like,
sweet.
there are so many opportunities. And their neighbor is going to wear the Scream mask and come out of the woods and scare our friend. And we have all the candy. And it's going to be so great.
There's going to be peeing of pants.
Yes, and I love to be scared. It's actually my love language. It was left out of the 5 love languages book, but I love being scared.
I had no idea.
I'm thrilled. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great being Ty's daughter. That probably works.
Dress up?
Yes, so it's kind of whatever you make it. I think Summerween is kind of new. So we're figuring it out as we go.
The rules, yeah.
Since we knew nothing of it.
Some
Dave,
people
maybe
are going to dress up.
Okay.
It feels hot to me to dress up.
Yeah.
So I might just wear a witch hat.
But you could dress up in something, like lightweight.
Yeah, you could. You could.
Where are you going with that, Dave?
Well, I just had to edit as I went. Because I was realizing I didn't mean to say you. I meant one could.
Humans.
A human could is what I meant to say.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Summerween.
Summerween. You can do it kid friendly. You can do adult version.
This just prompts one more question before we dive in. So, what is your favorite horror movie?
Ooh, it's good. I kind of like Scream because I like if there's a funny-ish element to it.
Yeah, there is in that
I don't love horror movies or anything. I just like being scared. But
so not like the Saw movies or any of those.
If there's like a spiritual, like
those
some kind of possession,
like occult stuff,
that freaks me out.
Yeah.
I do not enjoy that.
Oh, those are the ones I like.
A movie called The Diary of Emily Rose that I'll never forget. It still scares me to this day.
Yeah,
and it's like a court. It's like a movie set in court. It's the least scary thing probably in the world to watch.
But it freaks you out.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I kind of like the movies with the spiritual undertones where they're trying to figure out the theology. There's a little bit of stuff thrown in that you kind of go, they're trying to make sense out of something that they can't quite make sense out of. I like that.
When I say I like Scream, but I also don't like a lot of the sounds and sights. I probably cover my eyes and stuff for most of it.
Okay. So it's not like werewolf movies or vampire movies or any of those. Okay. Not in particular. Oh, Dave.
What?
Do you like horror movies?
I do not.
You do not?
No. But the scariest horror movie I ever saw was actually the original Halloween. And it's because I saw it when I was probably 13 or something like that. And it terrified me. I remember it vividly.
So do I.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It was a good one. But, I don't like them. No.
I have a short story with that.
Yeah.
Then we'll move on. All right. But I was playing football. I was 15 years old, and our whole high school football team went to Halloween. And
Halloween.
Halloween the movie.
Okay.
The first Halloween movie.
Got it.
And we were all sitting in rows, and I was sitting next to my brother, and the offensive line was sitting in front of us. So very large boys, like large. And it was one of those just real intense moments in the movie. And my brother gets the great idea of, there's one of the guys is probably 6'4", 250. And he's got a big bucket of popcorn. He's got a soda. He grabs him in this intense moment, and everybody else in the movie theater is dead silent. He stands up and screams like a girl, and popcorn is flying and soda is flying.
So
And
great.
I'm like, he's gonna kill us. He's gonna kill us.
But he literally stood up.
Well, yeah, and I mean, it wasn't just like it was
Yeah.
like
Panic.
It was. It was a good minute.
So great.
Of sheer pain.
So great.
I'm sure he remembers that.
I
really
wish
well.
that was in the TikTok era. Because
Yeah.
that would be. I'd play that one over and over again.
It was fantastic. Lanny Klomstead. Oh, I remember Lanny.
What a name!
Isn't that a name?
Sounds like
Yeah.
a character in a Flannery O'Connor book.
He kind of was a character in a. Yeah. We'll just leave it there. I don't know if he listens to this. I doubt it. As far as he knows, I'm dead. So all that to say. So what is our topic for today, Dave?
Well, we've gotten some suggestions that we talk about things related to power and control and manipulation in the
Yes.
church.
Yeah.
And so it's a big topic.
Yeah.
And there's probably a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to talk about how that shows up in the church, both why someone is in the role of being the manipulator, why someone tends to find themselves in relationships where they get manipulated or have people in power and control over them, and then what to do about it.
Okay.
Do you think we can stick the landing on all that in a few
About
minutes?
20 minutes.
Yeah,
Do our best.
Let's do it.
We'll do our best.
We can do our best.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I guess my initial thought is, have you had experience personally, both of you, in a church setting where you've seen people being manipulative, being manipulated? Like, what's that? And go with that wherever you want.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. I've worked in some churches where the culture is very manipulative. It is, but it's one of two varieties for me that I've been in. I've been in two different varieties of that. One where it was a passive manipulation of omission of information. It was, oh, you didn't know about that? I'm sorry you missed that. And because really we didn't want you there, but we didn't want to tell you we didn't want you there. So we just kind of manipulated things so you wouldn't be there. They don't say that, but that's what they do. So they control through information omission, right? Okay, so that was one. And then there was one where the guy was just the power over strong man. People saw him as the answer to all the questions. I was an associate in a church, and he was the leader of the church. And people would ask me questions. Well, I'm gonna go ask. I'm like, what am I doing here? If you're all gonna ask, stop asking me. You know, it was kind of and very controlling, very much so, power over. So, and people loved him.
Yeah.
I found him to be very annoying. But those are the two probably biggest. Do you want more details around that?
No, that sounds
those are the
good.
two that.
Yeah, I like the two examples because they're in different directions,
Yes.
different ways to manipulate.
Be manipulated.
Right. One is just like, I am keeping all the information to myself.
Yeah.
I'm controlling the information. And the other
Right.
one is, I'm this sort of charismatic
Yep.
figure that everyone looks to. And
Yep.
then I have all the sort of,
Right.
that people voluntarily give me
Right.
their obedience.
Yeah.
Or submit to me. Yeah.
I don't know which one I disliked more,
That's good.
but
Yeah. I have had really good experiences, but also haven't been behind the scenes as much as you. You know, I
right.
really have only been behind the scenes with the one church where I was a youth intern, where you really are only seeing probably a very small part of what's really happening, but it was a good experience. It felt like a really healthy church. So I don't have a great example of it. What about you?
Not as much. I can think of some churches that I went to during college grad school where there were some things in retrospect that I can see.
Right.
But didn't experience it as a personal thing where I felt hurt by it or manipulated by it. But I can now look back and see some of that.
Right.
When I lived in Charlotte for 24 years, I was part of a church community that I think overall was pretty healthy.
Yeah.
And the senior pastor there was far from this. So he didn't have the same needs for power and control and manipulation. And so I think created a culture where that wasn't a big part of, or at all part of that leadership culture.
Yeah.
I have seen churches where there's the charismatic figure that, when we think of power and control, we often think of the kind of the guy who's sort of like, I will rule you.
Yes.
That's not what we're really.
Nope.
And that's a good distinction, because part of what this looks like in the church is actually very appealing.
Yeah.
Right. It's the charismatic, the upfront guy who,
very wise.
Yeah. Often, or at least very
appears to be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Has a lot of the answers.
Yep.
Seems to have it together.
Yep.
You know, the
until you cross them.
Yeah.
Yep.
The what's the line about the attractive fit pastor, right? In evangelical circles.
Yeah,
like it's the guy, it's like he looks cool and he's like,
it's the personality driven idea. It's like you put somebody up there that people are attracted to.
Right.
Right.
So have you seen that, Lauren? The like churches or been aware of churches where there's that sort of charismatic figure,
celebrity, the celebrity kind of look.
So I guess before we get into the not good side, is that ever okay to have a central figure that people really look up to, and
until he gets the idea that he is the I guess we talked about it in Bad Religion at Journey here for a few weeks, but when they start taking the position of the father or the position of the sage that is indispensable and they're not very collaborative, they're very much isolated, and if you don't fall in line, they find a way to get rid of you.
That's a great point, because that was one of my questions, was any really I don't know, any group sort of needs a leader on some level for it to be functional. And so then what's the level, or, what's the distinction between, yes, we have a leader versus, it's getting into this territory. And I think the way you described it is good.
Yeah. There's a, like, even in this environment at Journey, we have a very shared leadership structure. And I, for default, I'm the lead pastor, but in that is I'm the keeper of the culture, not the keeper of people. It's two different things. And it is to create an environment where all are welcome and contribute to the whole without it being you have to conform. There's a conformity piece that lies in that power over thing that's required. And we're not asking for conformity.
Yeah. And it also would make sense if someone's in a position like that where they there's no ability to challenge that person in any meaningful way.
Right.
There might look like there is, like we've got an elder board, or we've got a accountability group, or what. Yeah. But if it's really not meaningfully able to challenge, then that's
what happened to me. I have a story around that.
Go. Yeah.
It's in my first church. I was young. I was dumb. Didn't get it. But the lead pastor was the sage leader of this, and he was the church planter. Everybody looked to him. Everybody loved him. And he manipulated the system to get the people he wanted into leadership so that he could maintain control over the church. And I became someone who said, we need to get some different people in here. We get some younger people. We need to get some different voices. We need to, And so I nominated somebody. There's a whole process, but there was this whole process. I nominated somebody to be the chairman of the church that ultimately got through the system to the last point where he was going to be presented to the church. And then he said, well, I didn't want to say anything, but he's not qualified. So we're going to have to go with my candidate.
My guy.
Yeah. I lost my mind.
That's the injustice
when it happened.
Yes, it is. That's when my mind. Yes, and I the elders were sitting around. We were sitting with the elders, and I said, "He can't do this." And to the person, they said, "Yes, he can, because he's in charge."
Yeah.
And I was done at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
There was it was just a facade.
Right.
It was a facade of accountability.
Yeah. So what you're describing is exactly what we need to be hearing, because right,
Yes.
that's the culture. It's like it might look like
Right.
there's a structure of
And
accountability.
I actually thought there was.
Right. But
Yeah.
really, when it gets down to it, you can't challenge that guy.
Yeah,
Nope.
it's people colluding with their.
Yeah. Right.
And the
Yeah.
elders, one by one, came to me later and said, "You're right,
uh-huh.
but we can't go against him."
Yeah, that's it. Right.
I'm still bewildered by it.
So we're
'Cause
talking about that
Yeah.
feature. We're talking about a lack of transparency or
Yeah.
or control of information.
Mhm.
We're talking about being in a posture of, I know things you don't know,
Right.
and you come to me for
Yep.
wisdom and
And I,
life.
and I'll only tell you what I think you need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, so it's not hard. We don't have to be Freud to figure out
No.
why certain people, particularly men, but not only men,
Mhm.
like to be in that role.
Yeah.
Like that's an obvious one.
Yeah.
We've talked about narcissism before here.
Right.
I think the part we need to get to is, why do people put themselves in the position where they're the follower of that person?
Right.
Right? So thoughts about that. I've got a bunch, but I'm curious from the kind of lived in experience.
Sure.
of
I've
what
asked
you're-
that question of, like, why would they not stand up? Why would they not say this is wrong? Why not? And the only answers I can come up with is, and this is part, I think, of the inherent problem within the church in general, is they feel like if they go against him, it'll do damage to the church. If we damage him, it will damage the whole.
Okay.
If we stand up to him and tell him he can't, he might leave. And he's what makes this work. And God somehow gets put on the elf on the shelf where he's watching over here. Really, this only works because this guy is here,
Yeah.
which is
House of Cards.
yeah,
Right.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I kind of landed on. I'm not sure if it's accurate or not because it felt that way to me, but also they were just afraid of him.
Afraid that he would either retaliate or leave.
Right.
Are the two things you said.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's either going to find a way to kind of get them
Right.
out of some kind of role that they're in, or he's going to retaliate in some.
Because they had inside. It was a nice sized church. It wasn't huge or anything, but it was like they had the inside. They were on the inside. And I think there was some kind of secret handshakes I didn't know about or something. But
Yeah.
I'm thinking of two types of folks who would be vulnerable to that.
Okay.
One is, I think, people raised in a more authoritarian setting where they're used to decisions being made for them, and they haven't really been given the self-confidence that you can make decisions, you can figure things out for yourself. They're coming in saying, like, I want to learn from you, if that's more
Right.
familiar. The other type of person I think might be more likely to kind of fall to this is someone who has a low view of themselves and sort of a high view of others, where they view others as kind of like one up, in the relationship, and they're always
Right.
kind of one down. I think those kinds of folks would be more vulnerable to
Yeah.
this.
And going back to our conversation we had before about attachment,
Oh, yeah.
what you're describing is someone that might have an anxious or insecure attachment. And what's underneath that is, I'm not okay. I'm not sufficient myself. I need someone else to help me do life or make me okay or make me feel safe. Right. So it goes down to even their attachment style.
Right.
Yeah. The part I want to pick up on what you said is the authoritarian piece.
Okay.
And I'm going to drop some heavy psychology on you now.
Go for it. I
Here we
love
go.
it. Yes.
So there is a lot of study of authoritarianism.
Okay.
And so authoritarianism is a psychological trait or complex bundle of traits
Okay.
that some people have, and it makes them want to be authoritarian leaders, kind of what we describe, my way or the highway. I have to be in a position of power and control.
Right.
That's authoritarian leaders.
I grew up in a house like that.
Right. And then there's a lot of the part that we don't understand as much, because we think of authoritarianism as strongman, right? We think of the strongman, but we don't think as much about the leader, the follower of the strongman.
Right.
That's what you're describing, it's called an authoritarian follower.
Okay.
And these are people that often come from the background you're describing. It's often a family where it's like Big Daddy says, this is what we do, and you don't buck up against that. And there's a lot of emphasis on obedience and on black and white thinking and on punitiveness if you fall out of line.
Yep. My dad's house was his castle and he was the king.
There you go.
Exact language.
Yeah. And so often that leads to people who that's the template of how they do life. Relationships, they bring that into the church. Now, some people actually are more psychologically predisposed by temperament to be an authoritarian follower.
Sure.
Without that background.
Sure.
But they are.
I could see how someone whose parents were kind of more laissez-faire style would also potentially be drawn towards something authoritarian because they're looking for high structure.
There you go.
And a lot of direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it meets that other need. It's like I didn't have any
structure,
guidance or structure, and I need it. And so there's someone who seems to have the answers. That's someone who kind of puts my life in order. That's like, I want that.
Yeah.
Right. So authoritarian personalities, follower personalities, tend to be more rigid. They tend to emphasize order. They tend to emphasize needs for social control, obedience, and they have these sort of deep needs for what you're describing of, I need security, I need predictability, I need a sense of steadiness. Right.
Yeah.
So they're drawn to it. Yeah. And so the authoritarian leader follower is this dynamic that like it's
attractive.
It's super attractive. And so in some church settings, that's what people are actually looking for.
Right.
They're looking for the guy or the woman, but usually the guy who's going to be the big, strong figure that's going to tell you, this is how you do life.
Yeah.
And the message in that is, I will keep you safe. Right. I will, if you follow, I have the keys to the kingdom.
Yes.
And if you follow this, life will work for you.
Right.
Your relationships will be good. Your career will be good. Your life will be good and safe.
You will prosper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I can hear that.
Right. And within that, there's less tolerance for ambiguity.
Oh, yeah.
For
questions.
Yeah. For black and white.
Yeah.
Or a tendency toward black and white thinking.
For sure.
So I think that's part of what we're saying is that...
And none of us in the room are attracted to that. That's what's...
I am not.
I am not either.
You're not.
No. I'm very put off by it.
I am too, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't mind. I think like I'm not against having someone in my life who's a leader I'm not the leader. In fact, I think I'm kind of a better second man sometimes than I am a leader, and I'm like happy with that. But that when someone comes across as authoritarian, it's very off-putting to me.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I love leadership. Like that's a topic that I'm super interested in. I've read a lot of leadership literature. I like leadership. I love strong, good leaders. I love it.
Yeah.
But I'm very put off by this sort of authoritarian leader.
When I get in that environment, like as I, in and out of, I find myself, this is me wanting to usurp their authority,
cut their knees out.
Yeah. I find myself trying to figure out how to, because it feels like a leadership vacuum to me rather than because I'm like, you're not leading me. You're just directing me.
You're bossing me.
Yeah, you're bossing me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, that's good.
I don't want to follow you anywhere.
I realize even though I'm drawn to leader, like the topic of leadership, I realized that I have increasingly tried to get myself out of leadership.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I like some I like leadership, but they're I don't need to run anything is what I've
That's
realized.
the bind, though, I
Yeah,
think, for
right,
it is.
churches is that oftentimes people who would make really great leaders are not drawn to it. They don't want the role. And then
Right.
sometimes people who really want to be in leadership
You
maybe
don't-
shouldn't be in leadership.
Yeah, right.
That's hard.
It's kind of like how I feel
That's
about the
hard.
presidential race right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
No, right. And a lot of what we're saying about authoritarian leaders and followers and so on, I mean, that's, you can apply a lot of that. But let's make this practical then. Okay, so we're calling this out or identifying, and this is widespread in the church.
It's all over the place.
Widespread.
It
I
is.
think it's more typical in evangelical churches than not.
I would
But I
agree.
realized when I was in a church in Charlotte for 20 some years and had a guy who he was close to founding the church. He was in the early days of the church.
Yeah.
Was there for his whole career and didn't have these traits. That how rare that was, relatively speaking.
Right.
And so this is very widespread. And the point not to miss is it rarely, sometimes it looks like strongman, but in evangelical circles, it looks like charismatic, got it all together.
For sure.
Listen to me. Here are I'll help you do life kind of.
Yeah. I have the answers.
I have the answers.
Yeah.
Right. With it's very opaque. You can't see anything about them.
Right.
You can't challenge anything about them.
Right.
So,
because it's almost like you're challenging God then.
oh, for sure.
That's what gives them.
For sure. And you made this point earlier. It's like, because it becomes associated with, we're doing something big and great and wonderful. And if this guy gets wounded,
Yep.
then it wounds the whole
Whole thing.
movement, and
Right.
you're wounding the work of God here.
Right.
Ooh,
Yeah. Which is what I was told.
could totally see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's make it practical. Then
Yeah.
what are practical things about this that for people besides the awareness? I mean, there is the awareness, but is there anything that we would take away from this that'd be helpful in a church context?
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm.
I
I mean, some of it has to do with what church you're in and looking for.
Right. So people do ask us that on occasion. Is like, I live in California and I'm looking for a church like Journey. How do I find that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah. But
Ask good questions.
right. That's
Yeah.
the thing. I think when you hire, when you make sure that it's a person who can be questioned, who does walk amongst the people. I was just watching a documentary about George Washington because I'm a nerd, but he would make it a point to come down and do one walk around every day, with the people, to be like, I'm not a king.
Right.
I am different.
Yeah.
And so do you have someone who's doing that and doing it in an authentic way, and then really encouraging your congregation to ask questions, to challenge, and keep encouraging that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a relatively new phenomena in the evangelical Christendom.
What is?
The idea that the pastor doesn't hold that title so dearly.
Oh, right.
The idea that they're in a suit and a tie and separate and holy and
Have their name engraved on the big sign out front.
right.
Right.
And have, a parking spot reserved for them.
Uh-huh.
There's some entitlement that comes with that, some distance that comes with that. And it still exists. And that for me is if I pull into a parking lot and this is oh, Pastor so-and-so, this is their parking spot, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Right.
It's
No, that's
usually,
good.
And it's usually the same. It's the best parking spot. And it's all, it's oh, he gets the privileged spot.
Yeah.
No.
The church
Drives me nuts.
that I'm describing in Charlotte that I like, they had one reserved spot,
Yeah.
and it was for whoever won something in a
Lottery?
A youth group fundraiser.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
This spot is reserved for the youth group fundraiser winner.
Yeah,
That's a
something
big
like that.
sign,
It was-
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
But no, those kinds of things where
Yeah.
privilege is clearly spelled out. And it's also, there's one thing about walking in and among the people and just, having a cup of coffee, hanging out in the lobby. A lot of it was, I greet people at the door on their way out. I shake their hand and no one really talks to me. That's one thing. Or I just disappear.
Uh-huh.
It's behind the curtain, and never mind the man behind the curtain.
Right. And you're saying that that's not good if they
Right.
just-
I'm sorry.
Yeah. I would tend to agree, but I would also say I've heard from other pastors, they're they got so tired of having people come up and blast them about something that they just emotionally needed that kind of space. So
Sure.
I think there could
Sure,
be
there's
room
a
for that
balance.
too.
There's a balance.
Yeah, I think it's.
And people don't understand what all is going on in the mind of a pastor on a
I mean,
Sunday.
you're very raw after you've spoken to any big group, and then have people come up and go, I'm going to challenge this and that, or you should have said this, or all the things that people feel entitled to say to pastors that they don't in other parts of their life.
Oh, I used to get grammar checked by the same person.
Yeah.
I'm like, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop it.
There's apparently a guy in the contemporary Christian world, a well-known person, that when he goes to a church, everyone knows that he's going to go up to the pastor and tell them all the things that they said wrong at the end. So, as an example.
Yes.
The other application I would put in this is, my premise with this is that if you're finding yourself in this role of being the person who's seeking that out, look at that for yourself and realize what need it's meeting, because part of what's happening there is this is meeting a psychological need of yours that you need to be aware of. This is you're spiritualizing something that isn't needed. You're thinking, I'm part of a movement that I can't challenge, and this person that's kind of this is this work of God that I can't challenge this man. Well, you're actually operating out of a psychological place that is you need to be aware of and challenge in your own self.
And be aware when they start using the word anointed. That person is anointed.
Yes.
That stopped a long, long time ago when the last king was put to death in Israel. Anyway,
there we go.
That's a great way to end this.
Yes. You are anointed. You're anointed to give us our benediction.
Anointed has a way of just saying untouchable by God.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot to talk about this, and there is a psychology behind it. And thank you for joining me. Have fun at Summerween.
I will. I'll fill you in.
There's got to be a follow-up to this, because I want to know if there's a need for a change of underwear. All right. Everybody have a great day.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Journey on My Mind. If you enjoyed it, please help us spread the word by leaving us a review and sharing it on your social media. Journey on My Mind is a production of Journey Church in Brentwood, Tennessee. Edwin Rivera III is the show's producer, with technical assistance from Randy Hansen. Grant Opperman edits the show. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a question, you can text us at 615-861-9503. And if you would like to talk to someone about spiritual or mental health issues, you can email our care pastor, Sam Barnhart, at sam@journeytn.com.